live.
Yes. Sorry, I'm texting Bill real quick here.
I gotta send a quick message to Bill real quick.
My name is Tim McKernan. We're in the Longo Big Studios. This is the Tim McKernan Show. Jackson Burkett is here too. I don't want you to get credit because I'm insecure.
Right. This is Tim and Boy.
Tim and Boy.
Yeah.
What you just? Oh, you announced yesterday, an hour ago on Balloon Party. Your name is Reginald.
Yeah, only when I'm watching the Rose Bowl.
Well, your Rose Bowl take was.
It wasn't met with all the
guy who wants to sleep with you, Daddy B. Cook, and took your side. But other than that,
yeah. I have my guys. I have my army who are going to be with me in lockstep no matter what. I was hoping I was going to kind of close that Venn diagram of my detractors.
Sure. That wasn't the take to get you there. For the record, for those of you just listening here to the Tim McKernan Show from the Longo Big Studios, thank you to the great James Carlton, Seth Goldcamp of Design Air Heating and Cooling. James Carlton's with Carlton Insurance. He's my insurance agent, carltoninsurance.net. Seth Goldcamp's with Design Air Heating and Cooling. DesignAirService.com. Munganast, it's Munganast, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, and StLouisAcura.com. AltonToyota.com. That's Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson, Peter Munganast, Ryan Seiberg's in the service department, and Mark Hanna of Evergreen Wealth Strategies, evergreenstl.com, all making this podcast possible. Jackson's take was the following. He does not want to see the Rose Bowl game time moved because you want the sunset in the second half.
Yep.
Even if it means the Sugar Bowl, the second college football playoff game this year, ending at 1 a.m. Eastern.
Yep. Yeah. And honestly, like in years where the Rose Bowl, and again, I don't know what's going to look like with the 12-team format, but in years if the Rose Bowl isn't a CFP Bowl, like maybe play that whatever time you want. But if we're going to be doing the CFP semis at the Rose Bowl, it's got to be at sunset, or else why do it there at all? That's my take on it, and I understand that there's a lot
honestly, I'm dead serious now. I feel like QFTA is like our safe space.
It is.
Done TMA. Millions of people listen to HD2. Unbelievable what we've done for HD2 radio. 101 ESPN. Millions of people listen to a 1-hour midday show. No question about it. But this is where we get together. This is our safe space. And by doing it every day, and here we are, 2 for 2 in 2024, take that, slut lords.
Couldn't say that better myself.
Yep. I was thinking, is Jackson spreading his wings and doing a Take Smith thing?
No.
Nope. You really? And then I started to. I folded the hand when you said you were looking at the forecast for Pasadena in advance, not for gambling reasons, which I would have respected, even though. The bell curve on weather in Southern California is it going to be 70 or 74?
Right.
Or anything in between.
Yeah.
You wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be cloudy or rainy so you could see the sunset in the second half.
Absolutely.
I'm alarmed.
I was so excited that, Michigan and Bama were going to be at the Rose Bowl.
I share that with you.
And it was like perfect. Like that's a great matchup for two classic teams. They'll probably wear their classic uniforms. And it's going to be at sunset. Like I was very fired up. This is not Orlovsky. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe in this take. I'm a guy who believes that the details are in the margins, and while some people
the details are in the margins.
Details are in the margins, and some people might find something like this extremely trivial or unimportant, but it's stuff like this, whether it be uniforms or what time the game is played, so we get the proper sunset. That's what I focus on the most. I like to look at
You're Johnny Nuance? Johnny Nuance.
I'm Johnny Nuance. And honestly, we're living in a time with the death of nuance, so I feel like I am...
We are living in a time... I went scrolling down the fan page to find yesterday's QFTA post, and then I caught myself, and literally caught myself.
Hey,
because
look at that.
Have you not seen this video?
I've seen that picture, I think.
The YouTube video of me doing sports. And
oh, yeah, I've seen that.
For those of you who are watching on YouTube right now, and welcome to the show, I see Jake Reynolds and Tommy Mites are in there. Would you be able to see it? Yeah, you would be able to see it.
Yeah, 100%.
Here, can I hold it up on the camera? How's that looking on the camera, Jackson? I can't see because I'm blocking my camera. Can you see that? Can you see the shot?
Yeah, you can see the shot. Boy, what a head of hair.
Yeah.
Looks really good.
And I was taking Propecia at that time. I'm 22 there. 22 years old.
Really?
22 years old, yeah. Nice. And I got to tell you something. Not a bad-looking guy.
Damn right. Dapper.
I kind of wish I would have fucked more women.
I mean,
I got to be honest with you. I mean, that's the reaction I have to that.
Yeah.
Now, I know how much money I was making annually.
Right.
Wasn't really flush.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the same guy who was working in St. Louis. Let me tell you something, and I want you to hear this.
I like when you preface stuff with, let me tell you something.
I don't think I've told this story before.
Ooh.
And I think if she were here, I think she would agree with this too. So this is not like let me air out an ex, like guys who get fired from radio stations and they can't wait for their big Dan Caesar column moment.
Right.
So this isn't air, and plus this is 25 years ago. I get the job at KMOV, March of 2000, maybe late February of 2000. All because, by the way, which I do think I've talked about this because Doug was working there, the guy who I replaced, his name was Bob West, and he was in the sports department with Steve Savard and Doug, was so pissed off per the guys in the sports department. I've never talked to Bob, so maybe he would tell a different story, and I'm sure he's watching on YouTube right now. That he didn't get to go to that Super Bowl, Rams-Titans in Atlanta.
Right.
That in order to really stick it to the station, he quit the night before the Super Bowl because they left him back in St. Louis to kind of be, as we call it, sitting on the desk in case the live shot goes down from, in this case, Atlanta. He was so pissed off, he quit.
Oh, my God.
If Ricky Prohl doesn't catch that ball against the Buccaneers, I am still in Little Rock.
Wow, sliding doors moment right there.
Ah!
That's good stuff.
Yes.
That's good stuff. That's crazy.
That is, that's the truth. I mean, I've Tim Klutzarts, who was our producer. He wrote for Inside STL for a while. He was our producer in the sports bar. Now he's like big news director in Fort Myers of 2 stations. I'm so happy for him because he's a great fucking guy. There's a guy who is doing what he should be doing and getting the respect he deserves. But he was our producer, along with a guy named Troy Roberts, and his interaction with Doug Vaughn is the reason Doug Vaughn is a part of TMA, because that's when Doug's reactions to Troy Roberts in the KMOV sports department is essentially, Doug's reactions to Iggy on TMA in 2024. Similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Doug would agree, although we probably couldn't go into the stories of what was going on in the sports department. Although if Doug would talk about it, I'll certainly talk about it.
Yeah.
I think Doug might not be one. But I would piss myself, truly piss myself, laughing in the sports department. And I mean, listen, all of us were entertaining ourselves, don't get me wrong, but Doug was, without question, the one. The same kind of stuff that's going on TMA now is what was making that whole spin. We had 2 producers, an editor, me, Savard, and Doug, the on-air guys.
Halcyon days.
6 motherfuckers.
Halcyon days.
To do... I mean, what were we even doing? I remember I would go into work and I wouldn't do anything. I just sit there and going, hey, this is great, but what am I doing?
You weren't having to edit any packages.
You couldn't. From a union standpoint, IBEW, we weren't allowed to touch the editing equipment.
I remember that from the film, what's the movie? Broadcast News.
Albert Brooks.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna break union because I'm gonna.
That's a real thing. I don't know. I don't think it's the case anymore because I think guys have to shoot their own stuff now. I have no idea. But either way, so I come back to St. Louis, but I get that job that night. I'm in Little Rock. And at that time, because the general manager of the station hated me. It truly did. Like, took me because she thought that I was making reference. I made a reference to masturbating on my 10 o'clock sportscast in Central Arkansas at the age of 22. This is a real thing.
That's crazy.
This is a real thing. And I will swear and put all of my assets in the middle on a lie detector that I wasn't doing. I just wasn't. Yeah. I used the phrase jacked up. And she thought that meant jacked off. This is a real thing. This really happened to me. But her friends at church, and I'm not making this part up, did not like me because they didn't like my dialect or lack thereof, and thought that I was a smart-ass Yankee. And I agree with the adjective. I just don't know about the Yankee part. But in Arkansas, if you're from north of Arkansas, Yankee. Either way. So at this point, because of what I was going through, I was sending, at the time, VHS tapes anywhere and everywhere. I was dying, no bullshit, to get a job in Roanoke, Virginia, East Lansing, Michigan. No joke. I mean, that's where I was. Anywhere. Just get me the fuck out of here.
Right.
And that shit happened in September. So now we're in February, and I am miserable. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, Kevin Demoff, that pales in comparison to some of the adventures that we went through with this show over the last 20 years. But at the time, and being 22 and then 23 years old, it felt like the end of the world. And I just wanted a job anywhere. And so the fact that I was even live for the job in my hometown, and my goal was to get back to St. Louis by the time I'm 30. Well, now I'm 23. And I remember getting an email from the news director at KMOV in response to my tape, and even getting a response, because you get a couple hundred tapes for these jobs. I'm like, oh my God. He acknowledged that I sent a tape. I was so poor, for real. It cost $3.75 to send each one of these tapes. And I'm like, I'm not going to get the job. I'm not going to bother with sending the tape because I can't afford to spend $3.75.
Yeah. Damn.
Well, that hit home with you.
That's
right
great.
there.
Well, yeah. This is a guy so desperate to get out that he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'd send him to Roanoke and East Lansing because I'm like, I can get those.
Right.
I can't get St. Louis.
Right.
And in 2000, the TV news business was different. Now, I think you turn on Channel 5, 4, 2, 11, whatever else is doing news, you see a lot of 23-year-olds.
Yep.
But not at that time.
Nope.
And I'm like, fuck it, I'll send it, and maybe they'll be like, okay, we'll monitor this guy, and then in 5 years, maybe we'll be able to hire him when he's older. That's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. So then when he gets back to me, I'm like, holy shit. And now it's like, the hot girl is interested in you, and now you start, like, what would happen? I'm already depressed that I'm there. Not because it's Arkansas, but because of the situation. Little Rock was fine. Fayetteville was great. It was my first taste of SEC football. And I remember going to a game there and going, this is a lot different than going to a game in Columbia. But I'm like, oh, what if I don't get it now? Right. That's the ultimate blue ball. And now I'm going back to looking for a job in Tallahassee. Yeah, that's where I was sending these tapes. And then I get the call to get an interview. So I get to fly home and interview.
Do they fly you out?
They fly me up to St. Louis.
Yeah, nice.
And I'm like, this is big time. Little Rock to St. Louis. You can fly into LaGuardia or JFK or Newark, but this is Lambert, brother, and this is a Southwest flight.
Airfield.
It is airfield. And now they do the interview, and I'm meeting with the assistant news director, and I was so nervous. And I remember a guy who kind of wanted to be my agent not because I was so good, but now I look back on it, and what they were doing was they were trying to identify young talent. Usually, I think I can say this groundbreaking shit. At the time, and some people, you will not remember it, the sportscasting world had essentially zero female presence. And there was a female sideline reporter on CBS, SEC probably, because that had started in the mid-'90s, by the name of Jill Arrington. You ever heard that name?
Nope.
Jill Arrington. And everybody wanted to be Jill Arrington, a name that people in their 30s might not even remember. Right. And I remember telling ladies who were looking to pursue news at the University of Missouri Journalism School, I said, hey, you ought to look at going into sports. I don't like sports. I go, it has nothing to do if you like sports. I'm just telling you, that's the way that the business is going. Now, I think people would say there's, the equal amount of men and women doing sports. But 25 years ago, different deal. So everybody wanted to be in the game. Female sportscaster. At the time, though, this is the dream job for me. And I'm in St. Louis, and I'm flying, and I'm so nervous. And this agent, he was like trying to find the young, up-and-coming talent, oftentimes female sportscasters, but I got lumped in because I guess they felt like I might have a chance at doing something. I think they knew I was going to be doing HD2 in 2024. Right. I think they knew.
They saw the cards. Yeah.
I think they saw it coming. And he said, now, when you walk into KMOV, you've never seen anything like it. So don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed by it. It's like I'm Sean Astin walking onto the field in South Bend, Indiana. Yeah,
it's like Hoosiers going to Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Yeah, exactly right. And I remember walking in there, and I'm all prepared for it. Like I'm going to walk into, Woodward and Bernstein. And it's like, it kind of looked like this thing, except the ceilings were lower. You could tell they used to let motherfuckers smoke in there.
Yellow.
And I'm like, the thing in Little Rock's nicer than this. The hell is this?
You're going to be blinded by the bright lights of KMOV.
And then I meet with the news director. He pawns me off on the assistant. Like, for me, this is the biggest day of my life to date,
sure.
for real.
Yeah.
And for the news director, it's like, I hired goofs all the time. You're our number 3 sports guy, whatever. But he was a fan of me, and he believed in me, and he gave me the opportunity.
Awesome.
And I remember then I go to lunch. Tony's used to be downtown.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
they had like a lunch place called Anthony's, and I remember going to lunch there, I think with him, and then walking back, and KMOV had revolving doors. They still exist.
Yeah.
And just having my head up my ass, I recall walking into the revolving door, and usually one person goes, and then the next thing, I go in the same revolving door.
You put your hand on the small of his back? That is a tight. That's
if I were them right then, I would have gone, we're going to go with the guy from Tulsa.
Yeah, he doesn't even know how to walk into a revolving door.
Oh, my God. So then that afternoon, they go, you can hang out with the guys in the sports office. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to meet Steve Savard and Doug Vaughn. This is the fucking coolest.
Yeah.
You know, and then after like meeting for 15 minutes, and they're also doing their job, you know, as it turns out, Doug hated it already. You know, he was 13 years, he hated it. Imagine, poor motherfucker did it another 22 years.
Yeah, for real.
Savard's there, he's a sports director, there's 2 producers, there's an editor, and the sports office had to be comparable to the size of this studio we are in, except 6 people worked in it.
Right.
I mean, it was a real shithole. Right next to it, whereas here we're next to the restroom, which you occasionally hear, was Larry Connor's office, and next to his office was Julius Hunter's. Yeah. And those guys are legends, you know? And so I tell this whole background for, like, this was the biggest day of my life, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't know how it went, you know? Like, I remember Savard going, do you have any questions? I think I'm like, I just really want the job. I mean, they could have paid me nothing, and I would have taken it. And I let them know that, and I'm sure they were well aware of it. I just wanted the job. I wanted to get out of Little Rock.
Right, and to be in your hometown.
Oh, my God. It was everything for me.
The Cardinals.
Holy shit. And so I get the phone call, I think 2 days later, and the anxiety in between that time and getting that phone call. And he offers me the job. I'll actually get emotional if I tell the story. So I'm not going to tell like the story of calling my dad to tell him I was coming home and my mom. It was the greatest because it also meant freedom from that situation down there. But also like, and then I don't even know if I asked how much it paid because it didn't matter to me.
Right.
And it was like 2.5x. So like it mattered, you know.
Yeah. Big.
Holy shit.
Step up, yeah.
So in my mind, it's like, I'm gone. Well, I have a girlfriend at the time. And she's in Little Rock, and her family's in Little Rock.
So you met her down there?
I did.
Okay.
Now, she has St. Louis ties. I feel like we ought to get her on. I don't know if she's interested. I have nothing against her at all, but, I mean, my mindset was not like, we're going to get married. We had been together, I guess, for like 5 or 6 months, but I'm 22. I mean, you know, this isn't, you know, farm community.
Sure.
And so you know, we go to dinner that night, and I'm in full-on celebration mode. I can't believe what just happened. I can't believe what is happening. And then she starts to weep at dinner. And then I go, I guess I got to be aware of this.
You were so fired up.
Yeah, didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, you can come up to visit, whatever. And... But yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I should have been like the me in 2000, 100% on brand. The me in 2024, that just isn't who I would be. You know, I would absolutely be, you know, I just wouldn't think that way. But that's how I was thinking. And I wasn't like, oh, sweet, I'm going to go to St. Louis and bang away, have a nice day cafe. I was just like, I'm going to be able to get out of here and go work in my hometown. Holy shit, I didn't just turn 23. Yeah, much less than the money. I didn't even think about the money. And obviously, she's like, "You're leaving," and you haven't even brought it up.
Right. You're not like, you're just so excited, and not once have you said, "Well, what's going to happen
right?" I mean, and I honestly didn't.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, and I know this might be shocking, I'm a little alarmed by it myself. She's still down there. I'm back in St. Louis, and I'm truly not fucking around on her.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. I can sense you don't believe me, but honestly,
I mean,
I really didn't. I really didn't. And then therefore, I'm like, I don't know if I'd say I'm lonely because I mean, all my friends are still in St. Louis, but I'm not like going out with anybody. And on top of it, I am going out. I'm like on my behavior.
Right.
And so then she moves up here, gets a place. We can currently hear somebody urinating. I don't know if it's carrying over to the podcast. Right by, like on the other side of the park. I grew up across the street from Francis Park, Tam Avenue, hence the name Tam Avenue Capital Partners, currently liquidating assets. And so she moves. But by the way, I wasn't like, oh, this is weird. I loved it because I kept all my shit at my parents' place, but I stayed over at her place.
That's perfect.
I'm not paying any rent. She's paying the rent. She's close. I now have my girlfriend here. But I think deep down, and I could be wrong, and that's why she needs to join us on the podcast.
For real.
I think we knew we were never getting married. Like it never, I don't think we never talked about it. And so maybe that wasn't necessarily, but I mean, I didn't say, hey, you got to move up here. You know, I think she wanted to move up.
Sure.
And she had ties. I mean, she was from St. Louis.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah, she was from St. Louis, but her family had relocated there. And she was great, super cool, very smart girl. And also, standard, too attractive for me. But then I see this guy anchoring in Little Rock, and I'm like, that guy could have done some work. Now, I'm still a tiny little boy. Yeah. Let's make that clear.
You can't tell height when you're doing a live shot like that, baby.
Well, I know I'm sitting on pillows in that shot. You don't.
I was going to ask the question when you first showed me that. Was that at the news desk, or was that when you were relegated to
That was at the news
sports?
desk. That was right around, literally, because the week, that sportscast that is up on the TMA fan page, if you want to search it on YouTube, it's KTHV TV. Today's THV 11 on 11, the THV's 10 o'clock difference, rolls right off the tongue. September 22nd, 1999.
Wow.
Fuck.
That was right before.
You were a year old, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
God. They were about to play Alabama, Sean Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
And they lost to Alabama. I was kind of surprised because Mike DeBose was the coach now, which I know sounds weird. Arkansas was surprised to lose to Alabama, but at that time, that was the case. Arkansas, I think, had finished top 10 the year before. And they wound up going to the Cotton Bowl and beating Texas the year I was there. Yeah. In Texas, well, it's the Cotton Bowl. It's you got to be a good team to be in it. But that week was the week. It was right. I think that the famous jacked up thing, it was like the day after my birthday. My birthday, September 27th, as you all know. So it was like September 28th. And then I came into work on September 29th, and the executive producer was a really nice guy. I think he sometimes listens to the show, which has to be weird for him. He was waiting for me, and he said, we got to talk. Right? There was a note on my desktop computer, come see me when you get in. And I go into work, just a normal day at work.
Yeah.
Of making, barely no money. But I'm just happy as fuck.
Right.
And he comes into the sports office, there's nobody there, and he goes, Susan wants to fire you because she thinks you're making references to masturbation during your sportscast.
Jesus.
And I just was like, the look on my face was probably the same one from the JFK documentary I've made reference to when Oswald gets asked by the press about shooting the president. I go, I think I probably laughed. I'm just like, yeah. It's not even in play. And
it's
I
like
go,
a practical joke.
I said, we got the tape. She goes, jacked up. And I go, jacked up, fired up.
Right.
She thinks it means jacked off. And I go, but it doesn't.
Right.
So therefore.
Right. I can think of a lot of things, but it doesn't make it true.
I mean, if I were armed with like the mindset I have now, I would have lawyered up and just gone to Tecumseh Sherman on Arkansas like my great-great-uncle did to Atlanta. I mean, because I am related to Sherman, that I would have just been like, okay, you had it out for me.
Yeah, right.
And I know I'm making nothing anyway, and we can settle this, and to me, we'll settle for something that'll mean a lot to me, it'll mean nothing to you, and you'll be rid of me. That I went through that. It was a living fucking hell. Yeah. But did go through it, and was not allowed to anchor on the desk for like 4 months. Jeez. I think I was welcomed back the day they played in the Cotton Bowl, which was probably New Year's Day.
Right, yeah.
Back then, you played it on New Year's Day. And I just was relegated. They would wheel the camera in, and those are the big cameras for newscasts.
Big-ass ones.
Into the sports office, through the newsroom, back to the sports office, where I was relegated like a pariah to anchor.
It's like a punishment for production, not even a punishment for you. It's just weird.
And it frustrated the people on the news desk.
Right.
And then they also thought it was wrong.
Yeah.
But, they're in a spot, you're clearly working for someone who's, not, let's have a conversation about this. Right. It's like, I'm not going to, lose my career to save the, number 3 sports guy, or I guess I was number 2 sports guy there.
Especially at that time when it's so cutthroat and everyone's looking for the job.
But God, I mean, I don't know. But then I've watched video of this sportscast, and the sportscaster that I guess I became, not that it matters because it's a worthless skill to have, but where I got opportunities and won shit, I'm fucking terrible in this. I'm going really quickly. There's no inflection. It's like when you're doing little piddles, shit, and I go slow down.
Right.
And I know you're not nervous at all, but have inflection. Don't feel like you just got to whip through it so we can get to me talking.
Right.
That's what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, this motherfucker's terrible. I'm no good. Mm. But I wasn't bad looking.
I was.
And I'm a little alarmed by it. And then I go, well, then do I need to get the thing that, you didn't get it, but Doug did.
Yeah. I think you stick with what you got now. I don't
know.
I think that
I don't know if that's what would grow back.
It'd be similar, but I mean, it's not going to be exactly like that. And I think that
I would have to have, I have some gray in my,
yeah, a little salt and pepper. Salt and pepper.
I would have to have some. I mean, I'm almost 50. Yeah. I mean, it would be weird if I look like Ryan Day.
I think you might have a little help.
Right.
You can be like Carlos Boozer and just paint hair on.
Is that what he's doing?
There is you should Google real quick, Carlos Boozer painted hair, and take a look at what happened.
Literally typing that in.
The Duke boy.
Oh no! What's he doing?
What's crazy. It's literally, it's like he sharpied his hair. Anyone who's listening right now at home, and you can if you're not driving, type in Carlos Boozer painted hair, and you will be treated to some. Yeah, so you could do that. It's either that you get the FUE procedure, or you stick with what you got. I mean, you wear a ball cap damn near every day, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I think about it more for Sound Story. Really, I mean, doing TMA and Balloon Party, whatever else we do. And this podcast, if we do wind up expanding, and I don't know. But like Doug's talking about however many graphs he got. Mm-hmm. I think it was 2,500. I think he said. Right. But he just had to do the front.
Right. Yeah. Where his recession was happening.
Right.
Yeah. You would need a.
I've had this look my wife has not. We've been together for 15 plus years now, and she has not seen me with hair, which is why I told the story on TMA today about pulling up this very sportscast, which I guess why it's now on the TMA fan page today, and showing my mother-in-law at Christmas dinner. And I go, yeah, here's what it looked like. And I could tell she was like, oh.
So she's never ever.
No.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
You've never seen me with hair? I'm like, why would she?
Yeah, I guess. I
mean, Anna Marie and I have been together since 2008.
Got it. And 07's when you went out to New York for the SNY.
That's correct. And I was about to, for real, the week before starting, which is insane to think about, was about to fly to fucking Vancouver, too, to get hair transplants.
You would have walked in and looked like
a chia pet.
Like Hellraiser.
I mean, for real.
Yeah.
In a market where they cover, I remember one of the things the news director, which is one of the reasons why I didn't take the job, I had a bad feeling on her. And it's true. It's I don't results-oriented it because you have the information you have in the moment. And I had a bad feeling on her. And she goes, hey, one of the things that's going to be different here is, there are 6 writers who cover the media in New York. You have the Times, Newsday, Daily News, New York Post. Yeah. And this is before. I mean, I guess there probably were blogs. And some places had multiple media writers. So they are going to be critiquing you. Just be prepared for that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. That's fine. I guess I don't know if I really had experienced that yet. But if I would have arrived in that market, especially relatively young, because I was just turned 30, with holes in my head from hair transplants, holy shit, I would have shown up at SNY, and the guys and the ladies who hired me would have gone, the fuck did you do? What do we get? We can't put him on the air.
No,
you couldn't put me on the air.
You look like Rudy Giuliani with the dye falling down your head.
Doug was wearing a ball cap, and he never wears a ball cap.
Never.
He was wearing a ball cap for a couple of months.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's a pretty. I mean, you have surgery, so your head's a little raw.
And that surgery that Doug had is different than the one I would have had. Mine was the flesh thing.
Yeah, the strip.
Fuck. Yeah. And I was just and I think I don't even know. I remember walking around the neighborhood where we lived, the Morelands, and I was about to. I mean, this was the next morning, and it's not like a quick shot up to Vancouver. I'm going through Minneapolis to Vancouver, and I'm going to have surgery.
Yep.
And I was walking with my wife, and I go, I don't think I should do this. I don't think it's not like the hair's going to be there right away. Like, no shit. And it's not like I was like 12. I'm fucking 30 years old. Like, I'm 5 years older than you are.
Yeah.
And I didn't think this way.
Yeah.
That's why when some people ask questions about starting up a business, this is not self-deprecation. This is true. Like, I can't believe how... I don't know what the right word is for it. Like, ignorant doesn't truly do justice to how stupid I was, like how embarrassingly stupid I was to think that I was going to do that. Holy shit.
Yeah, it would have been tough to walk in there. Like,
oh my God.
You would have walked in and be like, I can't be on the air for 3 months.
Minimum, probably longer. Least, and so then what do they do? I mean, if I were them, I would have fired me.
Yeah,
I'm sure my agent would have been like, because in his mind, he's losing whatever percentage it was that he sometimes listens to this podcast. He might see my phone light up. What we would have done there.
Yeah, that would have been a really tough spot.
Oh my God! Like,
you
what
didn't tell
can
him,
do?
did you? You didn't tell him you were going to do this?
I don't know. I remember him just saying, "Well, let's grow it out." Because at the time, the Matt Lauer
Right.
thing. Now, people think Matt Lauer now, and they think of what happened at the Today Show. But at the time, he had probably what I had. I didn't grow my hair out.
Yeah, he was just thinner. Up
it was
top,
thinner, yeah. So like I've seen like in a mirror. Like I'm thin, like you can't tell it's thin because I'll take off my fucking head here so we can judge my head. Yeah, it's lopsided. Fuck off. I still have the baddest bitch in my game wearing my chain. It's like bald here, but I have hair here.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much would grow out.
That's the thing too, is if you were to do this, you'd have to grow everything out for like a month so that they would have something, they got to pull something out. So you have to grow around the sides.
And it's going to take a while.
Yeah. It would be
But I mean, that's 2024, and I'm fucking off in a closet next to a pisser.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like
this is going on set, literally over my right shoulder is Radio City Music Hall. The day that I was auditioning, Floyd Mayweather was in studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah, it's a big time.
Yeah, it really was.
It's the bright lights of KMOV were going to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was certainly a more jaded motherfucker by 2007. I already left KMOV for 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
But I look back on it and I go, what the fuck? It's truly, I suppose, a shame. Like if what Doug just had done to be the mayor of Toughtown, I believe is what he is,
yep.
If that was around, 1998, obviously, when I started taking Propecia, like I probably would be doing television right now. Wow. As insane as that might sound. Wow. I don't know if I would want to be because there aren't a lot of people doing television making a lot of money. For real. Like, and I remember kind of when I was deciding on the New York thing, going, okay, how many people are making $1 million doing television? Not to say I need to make $1 million, but you also got to kind of multiply St. Louis or divide St. Louis, divide New York dollars by 2.5. Right. So in other words, if you're making 300 in St. Louis, you better be making $1 million in New York, especially if you want to be in Manhattan.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm like, maybe 20 or 30? Maybe, and that's 2007.
Yeah.
I would say there might be more who are in the sports world now making it, but they're probably owners of their show.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's not traditional where it's like
like at ESPN, like who hosting SportsCenter, which is kind of the path I was on, is making $1 million a year.
Only SVP.
That's it.
Only SVP.
That's it. There's just no way.
Especially,
and I'd be surprised if people are making even $250,000. Not to downplay $250,000, but Connecticut $250,000 is different than $250,000 in St. Louis.
100%.
And so I'm sitting there going, and I don't want to do it. And when I went up there to audition, I had to ad lib over Nets highlights. I mean, you might sit there with a soft cow, but I'm going with Kerry Kittles.
Darren Williams, maybe Gerald Green.
I might have had Darren Williams at that time, actually.
Yeah, I think probably
did he start with the Jazz or did he start with the Nets?
He started with the Jazz.
Wow, that's a big win for me. That was a huge win for me.
I think he started with the Jazz, but then I think at that time was on the New Jersey
And
Nets.
I remember SNY has the Mets, which I guess at this point people know, but they also were the Jets station. Oh, yeah. And the Jets had camp somewhere that it wasn't even that far. It's like on Long Island. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that.
Take the ferry.
I'm going to take the Staten Island ferry, albeit to Staten Island going the wrong direction. Yeah. But yes, I'm like, I don't want to do this. This isn't what I want to do. Yeah. I don't fucking care about New York or ESPN. It's like I was on the phone with my financial advisor a month ago, and he goes, well, you just got to determine what you want to do. And I said, I want to beat you in stroke play. He's +2. And I want to be left alone. So I don't want anybody to know who I am. I want to beat you at stroke play, and I'd like to make some money and just kind of be left alone. That's it. And he goes, well, that kind of answers your question on the direction you want to go. And I go, yeah, I guess that does. That's what I want. I have zero interest. That used to be a shot like at St. Louis media. I don't think it goes on anymore. Well, I mean, they're in St. Louis. They couldn't get jobs anywhere else. Doug Vaughn, well, he did work in Miami.
Right.
Doug Vaughn could absolutely have worked perhaps anywhere, for real. No bullshit, just from a talent side. Martin Kilcoyne, no question in my mind, could have been like killed it at ESPN. He could have been a national fucking
personality.
God, man, with his ability. And I'm sure I'm leaving some out, and I'm not doing it to take a shot. Fuck. But, yeah, that's the contrary to what people think, there isn't a bunch of money because they know there are hundreds of people who want these jobs.
Right.
And most of them are starving in their current jobs. And so they'll leave for like $10,000 more.
Yeah.
And it's.
You have no leverage.
You have no leverage. Yeah. Exactly right.
You have no leverage.
Anyway, this whole conversation started because it turns out I was fuckable in Arkansas.
That right there was the prime example of QFTA. We just went 35 minutes because you saw a picture of yourself from Little Rock.
Right. And I was trying to find yesterday's QFTA thread.
Yeah, it's literally, that's like the perfect little microcosm of what we do.
Yeah. And I guess that'll do it for the show. I mean, that's it. Yeah. But I was trying to, Billy Shacklady. I'm a Billy Shacklady lemming. Do you know Billy Shacklady?
Never met him, heard him plenty.
Yeah. Good guy. Really good guy. Oh, yeah. And he posted a thing on the fan page in the thread yesterday with Abigail Mack about the average viewers for the 4 sports.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And it was like NFL in another world, then NBA,
yeah.
And then I think it was baseball. It was NHL?
I think NHL and MLB were
He's a big hockey guy, so it wouldn't surprise me.
I think NHL and MLB were
And he said, does this surprise you? But I'd like to have the data. That's why I was scrolling through the fan page, and then I got sidetracked by seeing how hot I was.
I could try to find it real quick, because when I saw that...
But now we're going to do a long QFTA.
Well, I care.
All right, fair enough. Now I just found, who's this? California woman brought guns and down payment to meet hitman, have husband killed in bitter divorce. It looks like Katrina Jade is in the picture.
That sounds
you know who that Katrina Jade is?
No, it sounds like a star, though.
She was. I don't think she is anymore. And she's also brioed up, so it's...
All right, I got the numbers.
What do we got?
So the NFL, average viewership per game, the NFL at 9.2 million.
Right.
The NBA at 711,000. The NHL at 398,000. Major League Baseball, 378,000. And the MLS at 133,000.
I don't know. Where are they getting their MLS data? Because MLS doesn't share its streaming numbers. They are very proprietary about that.
Nielsen National TV Panel.
I guess they're using the games that weren't on Apple.
The FS1 games.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go with your NBA thing, I'm like, you're right. I know you're right. Oh, yeah. I mean, I also know,
I get it.
That in this particular market, but I also know part of the reason for it in this particular market.
Right.
But if you were to go around the country and you were to talk to gentlemen ages 18 to 45, 54, whatever demographic, 25 to 54, whatever demographic, I guess that's what we're judged by as men 25 to 54, you can have 2 national team sports in your city.
Yeah.
What will you take?
It'll be the top 2 of these most watched sports leagues. It'll be the NFL and the NBA.
And that will upset some people in St. Louis, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I love the Cardinals and I love the Blues, but I also still tell you what I think, whether you like it or not. And there's not a doubt in my mind. It would be the NFL and the NBA.
Yeah, it's 100%.
And if you go 18 to 34, it's going to even be a higher proportion that way. College football's mounting a Sunday charge in a major way, but with regard to, you're talking professional, that's where it's going to be.
Right. And I saw, and people got their takes off like you wouldn't believe, and I saw it coming from a mile away ever since the NFL announced they were doing it. The NFL, obviously, Christmas being on a Monday, they were going to have some football games on that day. They did the same thing last year. You're going to have football games on Christmas, and so it went up against the NBA. and everyone's like, look, the NBA sucks. It got terrible viewership compared to the NFL. I was like, well, can we like look at it in a grand scheme and see how much football in general, not just the NFL, but mainly the NFL, dominates in this country, and the fact that they play once a week, late in the season with big playoff implications versus a game that truly means nothing in the NBA, although it's a tradition because they play on Christmas. Right. I was like, you gotta like, you can't be this dumb.
Yeah, I was wondering if what the NFL will do next year, I say next year, this year, on Christmas, because Christmas is on Wednesday, and the success they had with the Christmas games, you know, and I was listening to Marshawn, and Joe Buck was filling in for John Oren this week. Yes, that's what I was listening to driving out here today. I say driving out here, driving 11 minutes from my house. Yeah. But that, for me, is out here. Yep. That's what I was listening to on my way, and because of the success of it, they're wondering how they're going to handle that. Like, would they put a game on Wednesday? You put a game on Wednesday. What are you going to do?
Logistically,
how do you do that?
That's the toughest.
It absolutely is.
How are you going to tell a team that played Sunday they got to go play?
So I don't think they can do that.
No, I think they're just going to sit on it.
Let me go into the YouTube chat because holy shit, is it active? This daily QFTA thing, Jackson.
It's got legs.
Let's see. Jake Reynolds. Hi, Tim. Hi, Jackson. Don PP. Look at that lettuce. I guess he's talking about either your current hair or my Little Rock hair.
Probably the latter.
Basement's flooding all over the place. Oh, I see that I put the I just saw the picture of my hair that I'm showing. What am I, like on tape delay somehow on our YouTube broadcast?
Yeah. It's about a 15-second delay.
Yeah, but I'm like way back. Are we not live anymore? Did it disconnect?
No, we're live.
Fuck, I don't know what's going on anymore.
I see you posted the picture of the Pasadena sunset as our QFTA picture today.
Really.
So good.
I left BK and F to tune in for day 2 in a row. That's from Alexander Colton. Welcome to the show, Alexander. Don Pepe says, good choice, Alex. The Pope, who beat me in the Fan Page Club Championship.
Roll the rock.
He just rolls the rock.
Can't teach it.
Now that I know that people are listening and watching, usually it's just me and you, and we're recording it, and I'm just like, well, I don't. In my mind, it's like Doug. He's like, I don't really believe anybody's listening to TMA,
right.
So he said whatever. I'm going to tell a little story, and I'm going to go into my family realm, which I have consciously avoided doing.
Sure.
But I got to tell you this. I don't know if I'm proud so much as it just happened, and it was really surprising. So my 6-year-old who plays hockey and loves hockey, and it's early morning. I mean, it's the reason why I slept so well over Christmas break is because I didn't have to get up at 5:30 to go to a rink. But he loves it, and God bless him. And there are some kids out there, like Steve Ott's sons in there, and I feel like there's another couple of Blues players' sons in there. So there are some kids who are they're fun to watch because they're so fucking good. But he loves it, and hey, if he loves it, God bless America. So anyway, with regard to the hockey thing, this is his first time playing. He's been playing games for, I guess, 2 months. He's well behind plenty of kids. That's just the nature of the beast. Now, when it comes to golf, I want to make this clear. I'm not making an Earl Woods proclamation. He's just able to hit the ball, but it's not because he's anything special. He's just been going out on the course with me, whereas most 6-year-olds have not done that.
That's the key.
So that's all it is. So I want to make this clear that I'm not like, keep an eye on my boy. And I just don't talk about this. I feel like when it gets down to, if you don't have children, you really don't want to fucking hear about other people's kids. Mm. And I'm well aware of that. Mm-hmm. And then if you have children, you don't want to hear about somebody's, and I don't know which one it's a higher level, but this is just a little anecdote from yesterday. Because you could text me and say, hey, if you'd like, we can play St. Louis Country Club today, or Boone Valley. And we're playing against a couple of degenerate gamblers, and we are going to beat the fuck out of them, and they want to play some absurd game, and we're going to win a bunch of money. And I'd be like, hey, fuck boy, I don't know if you've checked the temperature, but it's 30-something degrees. Right. So, see if Doug wants to join you, because there's no way in hell I'm doing it. So what I do at this time of year, I haven't hit a ball off of turf, as in grass, since, I think, October.
Ooh.
Played it in the St. Gabriel. It wasn't St. Gabriel. It was a friend of my father. His daughter passed away a few years ago. Jill Bender Golf Tournament. That's what I played in Aberdeen. Played well, too. But October 20th, I have no interest in playing in November, December. I don't care what the weather is. Yeah. I just shut it down. But I go into the simulator that we have, not at my house. And I actually love it because I'm able to work on some things and track the data.
Data guy.
What's that?
Data guy.
I am a data guy, and I love it. And I'm, and then you're able to play courses if you want. But the putting on simulators is so fucking. Like if I have an 8-foot putt, I would like my chances of making it on a course twice as much as I would in the simulator.
They should just hand you a video game controller like it's Tiger Woods PGA Tour and just do it that way.
It's borderline impossible, but whatever. Anyway, neither here nor there. I'm able to get my swings in and track shit and angles and whatever. So yesterday was my 6-year-old son's last day before going back to school today, and he was bored, and I said, well, I've got the simulator at 3. If you want to come up with me, you don't have to hit balls. I don't give a shit. You don't have to swing a golf club. I couldn't care any less. He can build Legos like a wizard, and I don't know what the hell that's about, but that's his thing, and it might wind up being his thing. And I like him. Like I watch and I go, holy shit, this is fucking nuts. What's going on with him and the Legos? And if anything, and I was explaining to him as we were driving the course, he goes, why don't you care if I hit balls or want me to? And I go, because if you don't want to, I don't want you to do something you don't want to do. It's kind of how I live my life in general with people I treat and the way I want to be treated. And so I didn't even bring his clubs in. I brought the 1-year-olds in because he's obsessed with hitting golf balls right now, albeit not on a course. But I thought he was going to come up, and he has these little left-handed, the littlest golfer, I think, is the name of the company. And so they're like little plastic clubs, and he's left-handed, so we got those for him. So anyway, whatever. So we get done. 1-year-old's still napping, so me and my 6-year-old are leaving. It's 4 o'clock, and it's sunny, so it's not brutal out.
Yeah.
But it's still fucking cold.
It's really cold.
And my 6-year-old goes, let's play a few holes. And I go, the fuck? And I go, you who proudly proclaims whenever me or my dad or your grandfather, Anna Marie's dad, talk about like how you've got a nice golf swing. I hate golf. I hate them. You want to play in this shit.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, I don't, there could be a daisy chain involving Ella Reese and Abigail Mack on the number 1 green. And I have zero interest in walking to that fucking thing. I know you're looking at me skeptically.
I might call.
I might see if I can get like through my rangefinder.
Like a binocular.
Right. But I'm like, I feel obligated to do this, you know?
Yeah,
But I want to do it.
Yeah.
And so we go to the 1 tee, and he goes, "You're not going to hit a shot?" And I go, "I'll just go with you. You hit." And he hits the shit out of a ball with a little cut in the air with like, usually when a 5 or 6-year-olds hit the ball, it's like, if they hit it at all, it's just like, it's dribbling.
Yeah.
And I go, what the fuck was that? And then, it's a par 5. He's 6, so it's not like he's got, 200 in. He's probably got 500 in.
Yeah.
But then he hits the next one, and it goes like another 75 yards, dead straight in the air. And I go, what in the hell happened? And I set him up with 1 lesson at Family Golf, just for the hell of it. Just because he said he'd like to do it, because he likes to go up to Family Golf, sponsor the program, but this happens to be true. And I was talking with Adam Betts, and I said, do you have somebody who works with young kids? Because my son, who proclaims how much he hates golf, wants to get a lesson, go figure. And he used to hold the club like a baseball bat or even a hockey stick to an extent, especially for much hockey he plays. And so they taught him how to grip the club, which I thought, I didn't even know that. Yeah. And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? And I literally said, where the fuck is this coming from? And he just kept, And so it's now 5 o'clock. It's basically dark out. Yeah. I'm on number 4, freezing my ass off. It could be anyone else in the rule, including Ella Reese or Abigail Mack, and I'd be heading home. But because it's my son and he's enjoying it, and I'm going...
That's awesome.
It was the greatest thing. I was going to tell you this in a commercial break. Part of me hates that I'm talking about this in a public forum, and it's already out because we're on YouTube. Here, I'm not going to share this with the audience, but this is... I took a shot of... And I'm like, that move looks...
He's loaded. He's loaded up.
Loading. I'm going, where the hell does this come from?
Yeah, that weight's about to shift, and he's going to go low. Baby.
And it's interesting, and here's where I tie it in, because this isn't you better watch for my boy. Here's where I tie it in. Part of the reason why I think I became a pervert is because my mom would stand in front of the television when there would be like a topless scene in like a 1980s movie.
Right, you want what you can't have.
It made me want it more.
Right.
They weren't really that big of a deal on the profanity thing. I just think that's stupid, and nothing will change my mind. So then when I have to tell my son he can't say fuck, and he goes, but you say it, and I hear you on your show saying it, I'm like, yeah, I know. Listen, I don't know what to tell you on this thing.
Yeah, it's a social contract.
I totally don't agree with it, but you can't, I'm just telling you, you're going to get in trouble if you do it.
Right.
Not necessarily from me because it's hypocritical. I think it's stupid. I'm just telling you, you can't say, you want to say it around me, I don't give a shit, but it's probably best if you don't say it. So now he doesn't say profanity. And like he'll kind of give me shit if I do.
Oh.
Why? Because I have said, feel free to use profanity.
Right, right.
So coming full circle on the conversation, the whole talk from our house to the simulator yesterday, where he was just going to go to just like watch YouTube Kids on my phone, was how, yeah, I don't care if you play any sports. Now he happens to love playing hockey. I would love it if he hated it because then I could sleep in and it would save me some money, but he loves it, so God bless.
Yeah.
And golf, I said, listen, I said, I tried to make an analogy. I said, look at that front yard there. And I said, there are, how many leaves would you say are on that yard? He goes, 5,045. That was the number, very specific. And I said, okay. I said, you might be right, actually. It might be a nice play.
Oh.
I said, there are probably 5,045 kids who are 8 years and under playing hockey in St. Louis. And that might be accurate. It might be high. I have no idea. because they're all over the place.
Sure.
I said, maybe out of all of those leaves, if I were to put a little X on one of them, if you could find that, it would be a miracle. That is the math of one of those kids that you're playing with right now, and even including 8-year-olds, getting to the NHL.
Right.
So the fact that, and that might be high, 1 out of 5,045 might be high, because how many have we had come out of St. Louis? It hasn't been many. And 2 of them are the sons of a guy who, was a legend in the game.
There was that one year where there were like 4 or 5
right.
drafted, Trent Frederick, Clayton Keller, the Kachuk.
So I said, yeah, the fact that you love Legos and you can peel off these things that are built for, or supposed to be built for kids who are older, I said, I love that because that shows a skill that is going to be way more valuable, one that your mother and I do not have, so I don't know where you got it from, but either way, God bless, that's great. So I don't care if you want to spend all the time in the world playing sports. He goes, well, why do you love sports? I don't know. Yeah. Why do you love Legos? I know you don't have an answer. You just do. But you don't have to love something because I love it. Do your thing and do what you love. Mm-hmm. So playing golf, I said, okay, who's the best guy at where we play? And I said, use this guy as an example because he won our stroke play, so he's the best guy, okay? I said, that guy would likely get his ass kicked by the one guy in all of St. Louis, Adam Long, who's on the PGA Tour. He'd get his ass kicked by him. If they played 4 rounds, he would lose by probably 20 strokes. But he's the best guy at our place by a comfortable margin, all right? Adam Long is out there fighting for his life right now on the PGA Tour, so he gets his ass kicked by Justin, because he named Justin Thomas when I said, who's the best guy that you've been around? I go, well, then you haven't played with Justin Thomas.
Right.
I said, that my point being, it's a pyramid.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to a fucking 6-year-old, like I'm like coaching up like a 21-year-old with a coke problem. But I said, my point is, what you can do with Legos or whatever it is that you love is a better allocation of your time than chasing something that when you get to a certain point, and it might be 8, it might be 10, it might be 18, will only provide a source of frustration, which is probably counterintuitive to the way that parents handle it. But either way, I treat him, I talk to him like he's my peer, even though maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. That's how I handle it. And I think that may be why he, isn't like saying fucking, like giggling, like when I say fuck, he's like, Dad, you shouldn't say that. It's that approach. So here I am. So I'm like saying, I'm not even going to bring your clubs. I don't care. I try to hit my 4-iron better in 2024. So I'm sitting there just focused on angles on the 4-iron in the simulator. And then I play around at PGA National because it brings me to Jupiter, Florida, and that's my happy place. And by the way, shot 300, Jackson.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Near Albatross on number 10. Yeah, from 225.
Oh, yeah.
Either way, that was the brag segment. And we get done and we're leaving, and then he wants to play.
That's awesome.
And so why do I tell this little anecdote? It was because I said, don't worry about playing. If I would have said, hey, boy, you're going to go up here, if I'm like Judge Smales and Spalding, and I say you're going to play and you're going to like it, he would have fought it.
Right.
But I said, don't worry about it. And I truly do mean it. If you want to play golf, play golf. Yeah. You know, if you don't. I truly don't give a shit. If he loved the game, it would be wonderful because I know we would spend a lot of time together. As it turns out, he loves hockey, so therefore I'm learning to skate so I can go out on the rink with him, and it's embarrassing as fuck that I can't skate. But that's what he loves, so God bless. But he really loves Legos, and I can tell he's got a little ability there. But it was interesting to me, and now that I'm observing this, and I'm certainly in the top of the first inning on the parenting thing, or maybe I'm in the bottom of the first inning at this point, where I'm going, I unintentionally discovered that by letting go, I brought him in. By letting go of saying profanity is evil, because I can't defend the reasoning for profanity being it's dogma, and you know where I am on dogma. Just fuck off. So therefore, he doesn't cuss. I don't have to worry about it, like, at all. Yeah. You know, I hope at some point he does. I'm a little disappointed, but it's good for the time being that he's not cussing. Right. And with the sports thing, I'm like, yeah, don't play. Yeah. And it's not like I'm like, don't play. You know,
you're not saying you can't play.
Yeah, right. I'm just like, yeah, if you don't want to, don't. Right. Just because I love sports, because I'm watching college football and I'm intense about, you know, college football and watching games, or I love to play golf because it's kind of my outlet. It's like my meditation is hitting balls. That doesn't mean you have to. Right. And I was explaining that, and I can tell, you know, some of it's resonating and some of it's not. And then sure enough, the next thing I know, we're out there for 90 minutes in 35-degree temperatures, and he's hitting the ball like I've never seen him hit, and he wants to keep going. I go, that was fun. Let's head on home. Mom and you know, our 1-year-old are waiting for us. And he's like, well, can we play 2, 3, and 4? Because 4 is the par 3 that I might be able to reach. And I'm going, what the fuck is this? Now I got David Faraday out here with me. So there's a little, I'm not saying it's a parenting tip. Yeah. It's a little anecdote, and maybe that will resonate for some of you. Do with it what you want, or you can tell me to fuck off.
It gets back to what we've talked about, Balloon Party, maybe TMA, of like, for those kids who are like really good at sports, and you know they are, like, it's like, and you become that one person out of 5,000 or whatever statistic you want to use. It's like they have that fire within themselves.
Absolutely.
To want to be great. It's not outside pressure. And there's certainly cases where there is outside. I mean, Tiger Woods is a prime example of outside pressure, like parental pressure, making them great. But more so than not, it's that self-belief, that inner belief that I want to be great at this and nothing's going to stop me. And it's only if you can tell yourself that.
Yeah, and then that you talk fire, the fire to be great. Right. And then also something that I think is probably, like, it's admired, you know, look at, you know, I was about to say Brooks Koepka, look at Dustin Johnson. Those two would never be the guys on the range after. Although I think Koepka did go to the range for something, you know, after a round. But like Scheffler was hitting balls forever. Bryce, it's probably, as far as interacting with mainstream society, it's a personality trait specific to the game of golf that is off. Whereas hockey, that's the thing, like if he did wind up loving golf and continues to love hockey, I think that would be optimal. I mean, maybe I will change my mind. Yeah. Well, I wasn't even thinking that way. I was thinking, I think it would be great to have a team sport, and I think hockey, even though I never played it, I made light of the fact that I can't skate. Culturally, as far as, and I'm not talking about, man, I sure love whites in cold weather. I'm talking about like being around the group of guys. It's just the best group of guys. Mm-hmm. It's not to say baseball players aren't or football players or basketball. I'm just telling you, when I went into those locker rooms, it's just a good group. And I think that is, it's something about the game. And I have no idea what the hell it is. I didn't play it, but I just know. I'm like, oh, that's, so you have your team thing and you have your individual thing. I think from a golf standpoint, and people are enjoying the story in the YouTube chat, God bless, that's, I appreciate it, because I was hesitant to tell it. That doesn't come off as does it come off as a brag? You got to be honest with me.
It comes off as a good, wholesome father-son story.
Okay, all right, because I'm so conscious of like not talking about my kids much, you know. In a big, like, I think Doug has mastered that. You know, like if he does, it's like joking around that Greg Vaughn, who's a great fucking athlete, by the way, couldn't pull a baseball. You know, that it just doesn't become,
Yeah, you don't want to use your...
We all fuck and make kids, and it's great,
Right.
Or sometimes it's not. Take your pick. But either way, I realize my children are just the guy, just like your children will just be a guy. But for you, they'll be your world.
Of course.
And there's some awareness of that. I'm telling the story because it struck me as there is no way that he says in 35-degree weather, let's go play 4. Well, he wanted to play 18. And I said, we might have time for 4. And he goes, oh, that's good because it's a par 3, and that's the one I think I might be able to reach.
Yeah.
And I'm going, it's 120 yards, motherfucker. You can get there in 2 maybe, if you're lucky. But that by letting go,
right,
which was not, this wasn't like a strategy,
right,
it brought him in. So it's counterintuitive.
Right.
I think it's the way people say you have to have anal. You apparently have to say, hey, you feel like you got to press out. And I know that's high risk, but in order to welcome the cock, you have to press. It's counterintuitive. So if you're thinking of parenting tonight, think of anal.
Should that be the title of the podcast, Parenting is Like Anal?
I think it should be.
Right,
because there's QFTA Daily.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to...
And people are going to be very surprised because I think people are going to be like, where's he going with this one?
Right.
Or maybe this was Jackson's take.
Yeah, either way, they'll have to make him listen. That's all that matters.
But with golf in particular, which is such a mental game, and you can be destroyed by having shit in your head. Mm-hmm. Therefore, as a parent, if he did wind up playing, which I still would be surprised by, but who fucking knows? People might... I have no idea. I don't know if he was. He does. If he doesn't, I don't really care. It would be great if he knew. I'm going to say, yeah, play it and enjoy it. And if you get a 10 on the hole, it just doesn't fucking matter. Right. Now, if we're in a $100 NAS and you're my partner, then we're going to have a talk, assuming I'm not bankrolling it. But it just the whole thing. And that's like Michael Wellington, friend of the show. There is no more easygoing approach on a golf course than Michael Wellington. Now, Michael will be the first one to say he's not the best player, but he's still a fucking plus 0.5, and he learned. It doesn't mean that you're not intense on the inside, but you're able to go, I can't let this one bad shot and or my reaction, or even worse, my dad's reaction, I think that's the one that could be even worse, impact the next shot. And then the next shot, and a round that was going wonderfully is now off the rails because my heart's racing, my mind's racing, and I am no longer present, and I can't hit the golf ball because not any physical ability. If you dropped the ball and it meant nothing, I'd hit it dead straight. But because of that shit, now I'm out of my mind, and I'm 3-putting and all that shit. Just whatever.
Yep.
It's like I've said to you before. Like you and I could be a dangerous pairing. Because you recognize, I don't need you to okay, we really need to bear down here. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I don't need a speech. I don't need Herb Brooks in the cart.
Never once am I like, boy, I'm really trying to overcut this ball short right into the bunker.
It's part of the game.
Yeah.
I feel terrible. I felt terrible. The guy I played with, who's one of my closest friends, he was my partner this year. And he kept saying, I'm sorry. I'm like, listen, man. I said, number one, I really don't care that much. And number two, I know you're not trying to have an issue. It's just don't worry about it. Don't worry. Everything is cool. Don't worry. Don't even think about it. And if you hit a good shot, you hit a good shot. If you don't, you don't. Yep. It's just... So I think about that through the lens of parenting, because I was really conscious, not because he was, who's an overbearing father in films. I feel like there's an obvious... The Great Santini, obscure... Have you seen that one? That's Bobby Duvall.
Yeah, they play a little basketball in the opening part of that movie, right?
Yes.
With the guy from fucking Caddyshack, the Denny. Denny's in The Great Santini.
Danny?
Yeah, Danny, the caddy. He is in The Great Santini.
You didn't know that Danny's name was Danny.
I thought it was Denny.
Danny Noonan.
I thought it was Denny. Either way.
I'm digging in. I better be right.
I know.
I'm feeling so confident, but since you're a cinephile... I think you are
right. But I know he was in The Great Santini, right before that.
Danny Noonan.
Dead Poet Society. Overbearing father.
Oh, yeah.
To
Not
the worst
sports,
degree.
but yeah, God.
Yeah. Oof. My son.
Yes. Oh, my boy.
Yeah.
After
tough
spoiler. Scene. Yeah, tough scene. I'm just so, but I'm like, I to this day, some of the worst rounds of golf I play are when I'm playing with my dad.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, at this point, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm not lying about, you've played with, not to say that I'm like, but I know what I do. And yet, because I think deep down, subconsciously,
I'm the same way.
I want to impress him.
Yep, I'm the same way.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I also know he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
But like I shot 1 under this year in 1 round. And the first question he asked was, who was with you? And I'm like, I feel like what you're saying is if you're by yourself, it didn't count.
Yeah.
And I know, like, when I was like even through 9. That's not super rare. But like, I was like, I don't know. I think I was, whatever. Doesn't matter what the fucking score was. I'm like, there's no way. I've got 2 holes left, and it was number 8. Is at Westboro is where I was when I shot a 67 there. It was just 1 under there. And I was back right, nearly OB on, I guess that's Lockwood. And I had to hit a flop over the bushes on a pin, and I guess that was my 3rd shot, just to, I've shot even there before, and I'm like, oh, fuck. But for whatever reason, I'm like, I know I can do it. Mm-hmm. You're just in a, you're in Reggie Miller at the Garden mode.
Right.
You're in a zone.
You don't even think about this.
Yeah, and if I'm doing that, not even 99 out of 100, and sure enough, it's a give me. But I still putt it out because I'm like, this is my thing.
For real. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that.
And then I guess I parred number 9 as a par 3, and I remember I went, and there was a little side game that day, and I went to the pro shop. And I go in and I go, I shot a 67, but there was nobody with me outside of my 6-year-old, 5-year-old at the time. And I go, and that means I'll probably win like $150. It wasn't like a $10,000 prize pool. Do I turn it in? Does it count? And I go, well, you shot it. And I go, I absolutely did. I fucking blood oath I did. Yeah. But nobody was with. There wasn't a witness.
My worst nightmare is acing a hole by yourself.
I did that.
You did?
I did that at Gateway.
Holy shit!
Back when I took the 10 years off from the game. But at Gateway. But it was number, is it 14?
Longer one, like a buck.
It's after the par 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know which one. Right towards the woods.
It's a tough hole. I look back on the fact that I aced that. I hit a 7-iron. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that went in. And there was a father-son behind me. It was kind of later in the day, and I had them go up to the hole with me. They still weren't there when I saw I hit it.
But yeah, that's the answer on how to deal with that.
Yeah, but and so then they jokingly said, because I was on the Sobey Cup team, which is this club versus club thing in Westboro. I'm the fucking white guy on the end of the bench.
Ryan Scalabrini.
Yeah, I am not. I played 1 match this year, and I think they kind of just did that to go let them play. The guys there's like 10 guys who are infinitely better than me. I don't know. There's 8 guys on the team, and I'm easily number 8 on that team. There's +2s on that team. So me flopping around as a 3, I don't belong, no complaints. But either way, they're like, oh, don't turn it in Sobey Cup. And I'm like, well, if that's the reason, I'm like, so here's the deal. I'm not gonna count it for the game for the $150 because nobody was there. But I am gonna count it for my handicap because I think that's the honorable thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. And everybody else was like, well, if you're going to turn it in for your handicap, which is going to fuck you because now your handicap's going to drop, then at least get your $150 or whatever.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and the guys were like, well, turn it in. And the guys in the pro shop, and I'm like, you've shot 68 before. It's not like you usually shoot 80 and you're turning in a 67.
Given your handicap, that's well within your range.
I guess it is. It's still,
It's a great round, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's the best round I've ever had. That's the only round of my life I've shot under par, and I absolutely did. And I was resigned to the fact that I was going to bogey 8 and then try to par and then shoot even again. Anyway, why am I talking about this? I have no idea. Why am I talking about this, Jackson? For those of you watching this, you're going, what in the fuck's going on in this podcast?
Well, you're talking about always subconsciously, you're always trying to impress your father. That's what.
So when you're 100%. You could give me 100 rounds, and I don't even know if I'd break 70 with him at that same course.
Right. Yep. I'm the same because my dad used to be my basketball coach and yell at me all the time. I obviously love him and I appreciate everything he's done for me. But and then I'll play with him now and I'll hit a bad shot and he goes, "Well, that wasn't worth the shit." That's great. But at the same time, when I hit my ace I had in June or July, the first person I texted was my dad.
Absolutely.
First person.
Absolutely.
That's who I wanted him to know first.
No.
It's not even.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So I don't want my son to feel whatever it is that I feel, but it's not like my dad. I didn't play golf. Right. Oh, it's not. No, not at all. Right. It's my favorite thing in the world. That round at Aberdeen. Like we had the St. Gabriel Golf, there was 1 year St. Gabriel Golf Tournament, which, I mean, it's a scramble in Farmington, you know, I mean, you know, for the perspective.
Yeah.
But I was just on, and I could tell I think we were like at 18 under. Yeah. And I'm like, we might fucking win this thing. And for my dad, it would be the equivalent of winning a green jacket. And so for me, I'm like, this becomes the most important hole of my life. And I've played holes this year, as a matter of fact, for a nice amount of money. I think you're aware of the particular. Yeah. And yet I'll trade losing that for, you know, birdieing this to put us in a spot to win that thing. And that mattered that much because it was my dad,
right?
You know,
right.
Not because he's like, we got to fucking win the St. Gabriel tournament, but I just know it meant something to him,
right.
But when I'm out there with my son, so yeah, so for those of you who have children who are young, do with this story what you want. And maybe someday in the near future, you will have young children, and maybe this is a one-off, and maybe I'm off the mark on it. All I know is it happened, and it struck me. I'm like, holy shit. You know, I had kind of just like, yeah, he's got a nice swing for being 6, but he doesn't like it. So what does it fucking matter? Maybe at some point when he's a teenager, he'll get into it. Great. If he does, I don't really give a shit. I do not want to make my children do shit as far as sports goes. Right. Drag their asses to bed and have them clean their shit up. I'll make them do that all day long. But I don't want to make them play sports just because I like sports.
Right.
So I'm just like, yeah, I'm explaining to him why I'm pro Lego. Eat the Lego shit up, man. Yeah. You don't like golf, it's fine.
Yeah. Do what you love.
Odds are, you know, and I remember saying like, well, I mean, you know, guys go in the NHL. He goes, so you're saying I'm not going to play in the NHL? And my wife's giggling. We're going to the Blue Stars game last week with him. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Am I like snuffing out the dream? Or do I need to be encouraging? Like this is a breaking ball I wasn't expecting to handle.
Yeah. It's like, well, if I had to bet.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going heads up on this, I know what side I'm taking.
Right.
You know.
Right. The math is there.
You're right. And that's what I'm trying to explain, like I would explain to you.
Right.
With listeners, I always resort to math. Yeah. That's easy for me because we have a right and a wrong, as the delightful Ed Herman said. But when you're doing this with a 6-year-old, so I went with the leaf thing. I'm like, we're driving by here. I go, how do I handle this? Look at all the leaves. Maybe one leaf out of all of those. That's the hockey thing. Yep. That's probably high, 1 out of 5,000.
Yeah. Speaking of Brian Scalabrine, who I just mentioned, same thing in basketball terms. I remember him saying, and everyone agreeing, and who played in the NBA was like, Scalabrine said, I am so much closer to LeBron James than I am to name your best player you've ever played with at the rec center. He's like, I am way closer to the best player in the league than I am to your buddy who you think is really, really good. Like the level of what those guys achieve. I mean, NHL is probably 500-600 players who play in the NHL all across, and they play in Russia, Canada, and Sweden, and America, all over the world. They're playing hockey. To think, you know, it's just a very few and far between that get the opportunity. Yeah,
there's a listener who's kind of guided me through the hockey thing, and I think his kids are pretty good. I mean, it's not like they're old, but they're older. And he goes, well, what's better than getting up and playing hockey with your buddies? And I go, I don't know, it sounds pretty good. He goes, listen, none of these kids are going to the fucking NHL, so who cares?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, your kids are pretty good. But I mean, and I love the fact, and it was a private conversation. I love the fact that here he is with kids who are good and who love it and who are playing and skating and going to the sticking pucks all the time. He, as a father who's very involved in it and played himself, has the like. Because I think what I will run into, and if you have children, what you will run into is inevitably parents who don't necessarily have the leaf analogy at their disposal.
They don't have the math on hand.
Right. And so, yeah, I just, you know, I mean, when it's all said and done, it's about enjoying what you do and not dreading.
Right. And the life lessons you learn along the way with team sports especially.
Yeah, how to get along with people and how to handle, you know, losing.
Right.
As well as how to handle winning and not being some dumb shit that everybody, you know, especially in hockey, man, you may inadvertently put a bullseye on your back if you all of a sudden start going, you know, with the celly.
Right. But like, the collab, like, teaches you how to be like collaborative to reach a common goal. Like, and that's how important in your day-to-day life is that. It's huge. But not to say that like with Legos, that teaches you incredible problem solving.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I'm like, this is a great thing. Yeah. It's a great thing. Brian Henshin, who's a bowl commissioner, says that's such a healthy way to handle the sports side of parenting. I've heard, witnessed some truly fucked up things. Certainly not the majority, but man, the dark side is dark in caps. Mr. Smith writes, Henshin, truer words never spoken. I coached my youngest on and off up through Legion Ball, and the shit I saw and had to put up with would literally is one off. I'll piss one off. Yeah, I mean, I witnessed it to an extent, but I mean, I never played like high level shit. But that's the thing. I don't think the stuff is necessarily going at high levels.
No, there's more awareness there than there is at like, you know.
Yeah. So like last night I signed him up for, I don't even know if he's playing T-ball or bay. I have no idea what the hell it is. And I'm just conscious of never coaching. Not because I don't want to coach, because I go to all the practices and the games. But I'm just like, all it takes is one person who's like, oh, he talks about the pawn. You know, and so I never want my son to have to deal with that. And it's probably not going to happen because, God, the parents, you know, where he is, we love them. Like we're very fortunate, big fans. Like, you know, you become friends, I guess, with the parents of the kids in the same grade, and so that's great. So I wouldn't imagine that would happen either way. What if it's like an opposing, you know, not because I'm out there going Earl Weaver on an umpire, but just because I'm like, okay, the job I have, it's weird. One out of, God, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 people will know who I am. I just want to be in the background. So I will not be coaching. Not because I won't be there or because I need to be at the cocktail lounge, but because I'm just like, it's best for me for what I do for a living to just fall back.
Sure.
You know? All right. How long did we go here? God, we went an hour and 15 minutes.
We did. I love doing QFTA. I could do another hour 15 if we had to.
All right, fair enough. All right. It's daily QFTA. At least we've done 2 in a row.
Yeah, can't take that away from us.
And what's the title of this one going to be, you said?
Parenting is like anal.
Parenting is like anal.
Yep. It's a grabby headline.
It's clickbaity. All right, time to shut it down. Thank you to our sponsors. Long Go Big, sponsor of the studios here on the Tim McKernan Show. Thank you to James Carlton, carltoninsurance.net. Thank you to Mark Hanna, Evergreen Wealth Strategies, evergreenstl.com. Thank you to Seth Goldcamp of Design Air Heating and Cooling, online at designairservice.com. And thank you to the wonderful people at Munganess St. Louis Acura and Munganess Burkhardt Alton Toyota, stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com for Jackson Burkett. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been QFTA, Parenting is like Anal on the Inside STL Podcast Network.